See, sis,
What's going on, good people? This is One Man Gang. I'm here with my man,
the Vanilla Gorilla.
and this is the Gorilla Gang Podcast 3421. All right, we got a couple things we're going to tackle today. First thing I want to start with to get right into it, we're going to talk about Gayle King. Okay, Gayle King.
Wait, before we get into Gayle King,
Oh, okay.
you want to address the birthday?
Oh yeah. Just to let you
They're
know,
like, what is going on with balloons?
This isn't how we do it. It was the Vanilla Gorilla's daughter's birthday, and he had a beautiful birthday party for her. I'm sure she was very happy with everything that had happened and everything that he bought her. And this guy was excited himself, almost like a little kid. Hey man, I got her this, I got her that. So it was good to see all that, and it came through very well for the both of them.
Yeah, so shout out to little Selena,
Yeah.
turning 6 tomorrow.
Yeah, happy birthday,
This was the
Selena.
first birthday party I've ever thrown, just put together. But I do have to say, my 16-year-old daughter Caitlin did a great job setting up. So she did a lot of this setup. She made the gift bags. So it's nice having older kids when you got a younger kid.
Yeah, I only have one kid, so I, no older, no younger. He's about to be driving, which, at first started off as a nightmare for me, but after getting in the car with him and everything, he's done very well. The reason why it was a nightmare for me, is because when we first started out, he hit the gas on the car and he turns to me and he says, "Hey, Dad, so driving isn't like GTA." And I almost had a heart attack. And he actually did very well, even the first day, and the reason why he did so well is that he trusts what I was telling him. A lot of times kids like to think they know everything or what have you. He actually humbled himself, listened to me, and he does very well. To the point that even now, when I take him around to drive or what have you, I don't really grab for the steering wheel as much as I would have, when we first started out. So he's doing pretty well with that.
Go ahead.
He actually, on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, does his first drive in the class because they do the classroom part first, and now he's going to actually get a chance to go on the road. So, hopefully he does very well with that. I'll be cheering him on for sure.
Yeah, I had the opposite with my 3 older ones. They were all hesitant. So we were driving at like 5-10 miles an hour, and I'm like, yo, you got to speed up. And also, I would take them over that parking lot.
Okay.
And that's when I had the Dodge Charger, which was extremely fast.
Right.
And the parking lot was empty. So I was like, look, just step on the gas as hard as you can. Go as fast as you can through this parking lot. Because I want you to understand what it feels like to go fast.
Yeah. So
I kind of went reverse with them. They were timid, and I had to make them go a little harder.
Gotcha.
And
Well, the one thing I'll say, which is funny, is, for those of you who don't know, my father was actually 50 years older than I. I was the last child of his, and he taught me how to drive. So I technically drive like an old man. You know what I mean? I don't really go over the speed limit. I might do 5-10 miles an hour. That's about it. And even when I catch myself maybe going about 15 or more miles over the speed limit, I'm like, oh snap, I didn't realize I was going that fast, and I'll slow down. So I definitely drive like an old man, but that's okay. I haven't had a lot of speeding tickets. What's going on, Cuzzo? DJ
but you
Kev
also
Nice?
drive for a living, though. So
Yeah.
So driving, when you drive for a living, it's not as... The thrill of it is going when you're when it's just you and you're just driving your regular car. I mean, when I'm doing Uber, I'm like, that's chill time for me. Like I don't have anywhere to go fast, so I'm good.
That's very true, but the problem is also my truck that I drive is governed, so it's governed at 65.
Right.
So on 95, I can't go over the speed limit. So I push it down to the floor and just keep going, man. I don't even think about it,
Okay.
which is kind of nice. Except when I get on I-70, which is out Western Maryland, you can go 70 miles an hour. Some people want to kill me.
Oh, I know Western Maryland.
Yeah,
I told you I went to school there.
I know you know. I'm just for the people out there. I know that you know.
I-70, 695, 795, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Colin's been in an accident. Nothing terrible, just rear-ended somebody. I think he was texting. If he's listening, he was texting, but he's trying to say some shit about the sun.
You said Colin?
Yeah, the
Did
sun.
you
was
try
in
to
his
do
eye.
a magic trick to fix the car, buddy?
I think Carter, like, barely tapped the car in a Wawa parking lot. So, I mean, whatever, it happens. It's good to get an accident out of the way. Then they kind of know, and then it makes them think, okay, well, now I got to be a little more cautious.
You want to do better. You know, that's the one good thing about mistakes is you typically, if you have any intelligence,
Well, if you have
learn
good
from
parents
it.
and you,
Right.
you know, and I'm confident that they've been brought up well enough that, you know, they're the type of kids that learn from mistakes. And I'm sure your son's the same way.
Well, I've been in a couple fender benders professionally. But as far as my own vehicle, personal driving, I've been in one accident, and it didn't involve a car. Interesting story. I was working at the News Journal, and I just did a double shift around Christmas. At least when I worked there, you could have as much overtime as you wanted during Christmas time. So I had just done a double. Was driving home with my wife at the time, and I think it was 19 or 20 years old, and driving home on
You said 2019. I was like, last
19
year.
or 20 years.
No, it just the way
no,
it came
no.
out, it was funny how it came out.
This was some years ago. So I got off the double, and I'm on 495, but not the one in Maryland, the one like you're going to PA, and all of a sudden, man, I didn't even know I had my eyes closed, you know, and I open them, and there's a minivan in front of me, and I'm like, I'm not killing no kids. So I get over in the shoulder. I'm doing good for a minute in the shoulder. And I try to get back into the lane because the minivan must have saw I was getting ready to hit them because I hit my brakes and then all of a sudden they took off. So I'm doing good on the shoulder. I go to get back in the other lane and the tail end must have clipped the concrete barrier. And it swung me to the other concrete barrier and hit that concrete barrier. And all I heard was my wife at the time screaming, "Ah!" Just screaming, right? She didn't have a seatbelt on.
Oh.
I actually held her with my arm the whole time. I hate to bring up that movie. What was the one with about the football player, The Blind Side?
No,
You
I
remember? He
didn't see
said, "Okay, he saved his
Football
little, yeah, he saved his little foster brother by holding on to his
okay.
arm." And excuse me, hit the other concrete barrier. I'm holding on to her. She's screaming. Finally, we stopped. I asked her, was she okay? Ah! I said, are you okay? Ah! I said it one more time. Finally, she said, yeah, I'm fine. And honestly, it was the car that got the brunt of the damage. The car wasn't actually totaled. They were able to fix it or what have you. I had a Pontiac Sunfire at the time, which, by the way, anybody who's owned a Pontiac Sunfire knows that it's probably the worst car ever made in America. Just so you know, that was a terrible little car, and it was my first brand new car ever.
Was it brand new?
Brand new off the
I've
lot.
never had a brand new car. Never. When I was married, my wife bought one. Volkswagen. It had 9 miles, so it had like maybe somebody took it for a test drive.
Yeah.
But that was it. It
Yeah.
was brand new, and I never even drove it because it was a stick shift, and I'm not a stick shift driver.
Oh man, that's honestly that's the funnest way to go, man.
I'm sure. I wouldn't mind learning, but I don't really think they make them as much anymore.
I don't think they do either. I saw
Maybe a
meme.
Mustang,
Yeah, a sports car.
sports type cars. Yeah,
I
they'll make them.
I
But
saw the meme on Facebook, and of course, we know Facebook memes aren't necessarily the truth, but it said something to the effect that only 18% of America's population could drive stick shifts. Now, I'm pretty sure that's not too far off because there's a lot of
No.
people I talk to that don't know how to drive stick shift.
Yeah.
But I know how to drive a stick shift in a car, and driving it in a truck is a whole nother thing.
I don't even think they
People don't
teach.
realize
Dude, I don't know that they even teach that in driver's
Yeah,
ed.
they-
I mean, I never had
For the
driver's
trucks?
ed.
Or-
No, in
Oh,
driver's
okay.
ed, like kids in
Yeah.
high school. I don't know that they even teach that.
Yeah, I don't know,
But
but truck driving school, that's what they trained me on was a stick shift. So
so I mean, if I had a car and I had one, I wouldn't be opposed to to learning how to do it, but I mean, it's getting my ass in the sports car. That's usually the problem with it. I'm
Wade
too
Dawson,
big.
Sean White, what's going on? Nice to see you on here.
But yeah, this is funny. This because we talk about this all the time. How we rabbit hole sometimes. We just start talking about we started talking about Celine's birthday, and we've now gone. Oh, and I promise we'll get back to Gayle King. But it's just funny how we'll rabbit hole down different issues and they turn into long discussions. But yeah. So what we're going to talk about was in the news a lot last week. We touched on the initial part of it a couple weeks ago with Kobe Bryant and the other 8 people that died in that helicopter crash in Calabasas, I think, California.
I believe it was Calabasas.
Actually, the Flight Channel has done a digital reenactment of the entire flight because they have the recordings where the pilot was communicating with the towers.
Okay.
So they have it from the time that they left the helicopter pad until they lost contact. They obviously didn't show it falling out of the sky and tumbling, but they let you know at the point where they lost radio contact, the plane starts to go down, or the helicopter. Also, they found out that model of helicopter didn't have a flight data recorder because it wasn't required. It's not required in the United States, apparently, to have a flight recorder in a helicopter. And that model specifically is not cleared to fly in fog, so they technically shouldn't even have been flying.
Yeah, I think I heard something that most helicopters have some kind of alarm that goes off when you get close to the
proximity
ground
alarm.
Yeah. And I heard somewhere that
it didn't have that. It wasn't equipped with that either. So there were some safety features, and obviously that's nothing that you would predict if you are a frequent flyer.
Right.
It's in the back of your mind, way back of your mind, something might happen. But you never think that it's actually going to happen. I'm sure that pilot, Kobe, nobody on that helicopter was sitting there saying, "Oh, if we get in the fog, we don't have a proximity alarm." So nothing that you can fault anybody for, really. And again, like we were talking about with car accidents and mistakes, hopefully it's something that they fix on that helicopter and enforce that so it doesn't happen again. Unfortunately, those 9 people will never come back, but hopefully it'll prevent anything like that in the future.
So speaking of Gayle King, okay, Gayle King did an interview with Lisa Leslie. Okay,
Gayle King, who's a best friend of Oprah. Just in case you don't know
best friend,
who she is.
She works for some kind of
ABC News. I believe
News.
she's on a morning show in ABC News.
Yeah.
She frequently interviews celebrities at like special edition interviews with celebrities. So
she did the R. Kelly interview. Right. If you saw it, where R. Kelly started going crazy and talking about y'all killing me, 30 years of my career, blah blah.
So yeah.
So she did an interview with Lisa Leslie, who's a WNBA or former WNBA player for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Olympian.
Probably the most recognizable female basketball player in WNBA history.
Won the Olympics a couple times, I believe.
Yeah. I think she was the first lady to dunk in the WNBA.
In the game, I believe, yeah.
I believe she's 6'8" too, correct?
No.
Wasn't she?
She's 6'5", 6'6".
6'5", 6'6".
She just... for women, it looks like that.
She looks really tall.
Yeah, as far as...
So nonetheless, Gayle King did an interview with her. Because her and Kobe were really good friends, which I didn't even know, honestly, before.
I did, because if you watch the Olympics, when that team of Kobe's played, and they had like the women's dream team, and they had the males, they were all the male players like LeBron, Kobe, they would go when the women played. The women would support them, so they'd be in, and they were like really, really close. That whole men's team in that Olympics, really, really close.
Gotcha. Well, I didn't know that they were close like that, but that's neither here nor there. So Gayle King interviews her, and she's speaking about Kobe, and she asks Lisa Leslie the question: as a woman, as a WNBA player, does she think that Kobe's legacy is complicated by the rape charge? Now, this rape charge, do you remember what year that was?
It was either 98 or 99.
Okay.
A couple years, 2 or 3 years into Kobe's career. I think he started in 96. So like 90, 98, 99-ish.
So let's say 99 just for the sake of argument. So she had 11 years to ask this question to Kobe Bryant, who was alive during that time. Now, it seemed like after...
Or even when he retired. Because
Right.
retired, that you start talking about what's your legacy and all that stuff.
Right.
That would have been a question to bring. I'm sure he may not have, he may or may not have answered it. Said, look, that's,
Right, I'm not
that-
going through this again.
right,
or what have you.
that this has already been tried in the public eye. This has been tried in the media, and it actually went to court, which just so he was under the impression it was consensual. The woman obviously said it wasn't. It got basically dismissed from court. It wasn't like he was ever charged, or I don't even think he got arrested.
Yeah,
But
she
but-
even refused to testify.
she didn't want to testify, etc. And all she wanted was a public apology. Literally, that's it. She didn't want money. She just wanted a public apology. Then it was done. End of story. Move on. He obviously had to work things out with his wife. His wife obviously forgave him and moved on. They had 3 more kids after that. So if his wife can forgive him, I think the public can forgive him. Is where I stand with all that.
Yeah.
That's between him and his wife ultimately.
And even still, she had many years to ask this question
Orlando.
to whether Lisa or Kobe himself. And she decided to bring this question up after Kobe had passed. Which, I even thought it was it seems like the motivation was just to ask that question because
Barely
honestly,
a week after I think it was Wednesday, so
Right.
Sunday was a week, and then had 3 days on, so a week and some change. Like the dude, here's my they haven't even had a funeral for this guy.
Right.
Like his funeral is tomorrow, actually. So, in case you're wondering, Kobe's funeral is tomorrow. Like, the dude's not even in the ground.
Right. So, even with that being said, it seems like this was an opportunistic interview because think about it. How many times has Lisa Leslie been interviewed lately? Not saying that she's not somebody who somebody would want to interview, but it really she hasn't done one in a while that I've seen. Okay,
Well, I think
maybe I missed it.
I think a lot of former NBA and WNBA players have been getting a lot of interviews, just reflecting on Kobe. At how they knew him, whatever. But I would venture to say, had she been interviewing Shaq or somebody, she would not have asked that question.
No, and even if she did, I think it would have been probably handled a different way.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I thought that it was in poor taste. I understand that working with the media, your whole goal is to get ratings, to ask the tough questions because that brings on ratings. People want to tune in, but I still think there's a way to handle it. The man is going. I have a belief personally that if somebody dies, anything that you have to say bad about them, it's time to let it go because you could have said it while they were here.
And I think I told you this when we talked about it earlier. It's kind of like in the Green Mile when that one guard was basically still taking jabs at the Indian after he was electrocuted, and the bigger guard grabbed him and said, "Look, stop. He paid what he owed. You need to let him rest.
Right.
If you die, you paid what you owe. That's it." There's very rare circumstances. Hitler, maybe mass genocidal people. Those are open. Kobe didn't do anything that was long-standing, anything that would warrant bringing up. He didn't do anything that was atrocious. He thought he was having consensual sex. She said that it wasn't. Yada yada. Whatever. That's whether or not they say there's his side, her side, and then somewhere in there's the truth. There's always 3 sides.
Right.
And obviously those were the only 2 people there. Not saying that she made it up, but I'm also not saying that he was wrong about how he felt about it. But unless you're just an atrocious monster, like once you die, leave him alone. Like that's it. And you know, he died with his daughter. Like that's what everybody remembers, but everybody also forgets. Like, I personally can't get the terror that as they're falling out of the sky, this little girl is like holding on to her daddy. Like, daddy would, like, that alone, that thought alone should leave everything out of, that wouldn't even enter my mind to be like, oh, what do you think about Kobe? Is his reputation tarnished from rape?
Right.
First of all, it wasn't a rape. So yeah, that was bothersome, and I think where everybody is wrong is making death threats to Gayle King, but I think they're entitled to their opinion. I think I saw Charlemagne the God. He had responded. He had said, I don't think they should be calling her all types of bitches. I think they're entitled to their opinion.
Right.
I don't think they should be calling her all types
Snoop,
of bitches.
I think, was the first one that did that.
Well, no, actually, Boosie did. The dude, whoever Little Boosie, I don't even know who Little Boosie is.
Little Boosie, yeah, Boosie.
But I think it was Little Boosie.
Boosie Badass,
50 Cent, and then Snoop.
Okay.
So it kind of went in that
But
order.
Snoop's made me laugh. I'm not gonna lie. Did you hear it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I think, hey, that's how they feel. Then that's cool. It's not maybe something I would do, but hey, I wouldn't ask one of Kobe's good friends, do I think his reputation is tarnished?
Right.
Either. So I mean,
Especially
if that's what
after
you choose to do,
a week after he passed away,
yeah,
or less than
barely a week.
what
Yeah.
have you.
So
I think that question was answered when Kobe was alive, because for years I haven't heard anything about the rape allegations on Kobe for years. Now all of a sudden he passed away and people are starting to ask
I
that
don't even
question.
think they brought it up when he retired, which would have been the time to say, oh.
Exactly. And another thing I want to mention as well. Oh, my boy Trev is on. Trev was a huge Kobe Bryant fan because him and Kobe, I think, were born in the same month or something like that. What up, Trev? Another thing I want to mention, there was a comedian. Now, you remember his name. I don't remember his name. Ari something.
It's Ari Sharif.
Ari Sharif. Ari Sharif, and I can't quote him verbatim, so I'm not going to try, got on TV and basically gloated.
Well, it was like YouTube, Twitter.
YouTube.
No, Twitter, Instagram. It was actually his Instagram story, but it went to every one of his social media outlets. Right. Yeah, they posted.
So he was basically gloating about Kobe Bryant being gone and saying a rapist that got away. I do remember he said that exactly. A rapist that got away died today, and he was gloating about her, what have you.
He said something to the effect of, today is a great day. Kobe Bryant, the rapist who got away with rape, is gone, here no more. And I'm here in Charlotte where he was originally drafted, and maybe if he'd have stayed in Charlotte, maybe if he'd have stayed in Charlotte, he would have avoided the rape charge in Colorado. And today is a good day. He finally got what he deserved.
Right.
Like, paraphrasing, but that's literally the gist of what he said. And I will say this: we were talking about timing. This was literally
the day after, right?
No, this was literally within hours.
Oh wow!
They hadn't even identified the other people that were killed.
crash.
All anybody knew at that point was it was Kobe and his daughter.
Wow. Well, Ari has gotten what he deserved because Ari has been fired. He's been given death threats. Now, once again, because somebody's
his pages
an idiot,
are all on private.
On private, yeah. Because somebody's an idiot, that doesn't necessarily mean that he deserves to get death threats. However, I am okay with him losing gigs and whatnot and things of that nature.
His management company dropped him.
Right. Once again, like I said, I think when somebody dies, even if you didn't like that person, what more can you do to them anyway?
Today!
So I don't get it. I don't know. He tried to make a statement that it was more of a joke.
He said that I always make jokes about celebrities that have died. I enjoy taking them down a notch and and making them lose their god status, etc. That was kind of his excuse for doing it and saying it, which is strange all in itself. I enjoy making fun of celebrities when they pass away or when they die.
Right. So, you know,
Why
whatever.
not just make fun of them while they're alive? I don't get it.
Probably because he might get punched in his face. I don't know.
I think he might get punched in the face anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But, you know, I usually don't say I'm happy about bad things happening to people. I'm actually glad that he's lost his gigs and things of that nature. I think...
I don't know why he didn't think that he would. Like, there's no way.
Arrogance?
No way within hours of somebody dying, knowing at least, at the very least, that there was one child on board. That's, again, I'll keep going back to that because I'll be honest, I wasn't really a Kobe fan, so I'm not as broken up for Kobe Bryant, the basketball player. I'm affected more for Kobe Bryant, the father.
Right.
That bothers me more than losing Kobe Bryant, the basketball player. So knowing his daughter, a 13-year-old kid, died as well, and to make that joke about Kobe and say you're glad he's dead includes that little girl, and then to find out there was 3 other little girls on that helicopter makes it even worse. Like
it's just completely despicable all around. You know, I wasn't the biggest Kobe Bryant fan either.
You actually on one of our podcasts literally sat here and said you hated Kobe Bryant, but that's as a basketball player. That's as a basketball
I don't
player,
know
which
him
is
personally,
different.
of course. You know?
I hate LeBron James as a basketball player, not as a person. Don't know him, don't care. I know that he's a great father. He gives back a lot, but as a basketball player, could care less.
But, you know, as a human, and I don't know all the things Kobe Bryant did for his community or what have you. I know he has done some things. So that
Tons of stuff for Philly, for LA.
Exactly. So I have respect for that.
Built that whole Mamba Academy in LA where all those kids are at.
Have respect for him just as a human being. So to sit here and start talking about you're glad this rapist who got away, which you don't even know if he ever... You know, like you said, he believed it was consensual. The lady said it wasn't.
You can say Mike Tyson was a rapist because he was, in fact, convicted of rape. Whether you believe it or not, whether whatever. But he actually was convicted of rape. So, you might be able to give him that label. You still might get punched in the mouth if you bring it up. But, hey, you got to take your chances when you want to say something controversial.
Right.
But you can't label somebody something that... like a rapist, like anything. You cannot label somebody unless it's an absolute. And that's not an absolute that Kobe Bryant was a rapist.
And one thing else I want to touch on, and this, I guess, is going to kind of tie in Oprah to it too. Gayle King did the R. Kelly interview. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I like R. Kelly. I'm not defending R. Kelly. Let's be clear on that. But it seems like there's some kind of agenda or something going on where they send another black media person to tear down a black celebrity.
Like it won't be as bad if we send a black person to tear down another black person.
I've seen it over and over. I think this absolutely needs to stop. I don't understand why, Bob Costas or... any other person that does interviews who I can't think of anybody right now, but, why don't they send them? You're sending Gayle King or, Don Lemon, whoever, to do it. And that just, something about that doesn't sit well with me. And another thing I want to talk about is Oprah Winfrey.
Well,
okay.
I want to interject before we get into Oprah. Mm-hmm. So... you wrote down what Gayle King's reasoning or her excuse or whatever, and I wanted you to read that because that's important because that also, it just...
Oh, yeah. I actually didn't write that down, but we did go over...
Oh, yeah. So paraphrasing what she said, she basically said that if she had heard herself ask that question, that she would have been appalled as well.
She said alone, if she's seen that clip alone.
Yeah, and something along the lines of basically blaming the network for playing that clip. But you asked the question.
Exactly. She also
They
said
didn't write your questions for you. You asked the question.
she also said she wanted to ask that question, being that Lisa Leslie was a good friend of his. I don't think that matters. I think the question still is in poor taste. The guy is gone. Lisa Leslie had a great response and said that, basically what I'm saying, you had years to ask that question. I don't
Yeah,
know
she
why
said it's not.
being
She
asked
said
now.
it's not complicated. Her
Right.
first response was, "It's not complicated at all."
Right.
Nope. So yeah. So we're gonna talk about Oprah
Oprah
Winfrey,
Winfrey.
kind of
Yeah. Oprah Winfrey.
who her best friend is Gail's best friend. Just so you know.
Right. And Oprah Winfrey's good friends with Harvey Weinstein. I want to put this out before I get into the point I'm making. Oprah Winfrey has been trying to do a documentary, which she recently said she's backing out of Russell Simmons, the hip hop mogul, Def Jam
Right. I know.
guy. Okay.
Russ.
And
I'm
basically,
a funny Russell Simmons.
it was
story.
saying that he has some ramblings going on about him sexually.
He has a lot of
assaulting.
allegations. Yes.
Right. But Oprah
And
has
he's
not
addressed them head on. Like he didn't no comment him. He just straight up said, "Nope, let's get him in court."
right. But my point is, she's good friends with Harvey Weinstein, and she hasn't thought about doing a documentary about him, who's in court right now for these sexual allegations. And somehow, Cam, Harvey Weinstein can't walk straight anymore. Mm-hmm. He has to walk with a walker. One of these. And he was walking fine a week before he went into court.
It's funny how they all are too feeble to stand. I think Trump's campaign manager Paul Manafort went into jail. He was fine. Now he's struggling physically. He's halfway dead. I think Suge Knight Knight's
Suge Knight
blind
went
all
blind,
of a sudden,
right?
Because
Right.
he's on trial and blah blah blah. So I think it's literally like it's an old mob trick that Vincent the Chin Gigante used to try to evade arrest with the FBI. Oh, he's crazy. He would walk around the streets in a bathrobe and slippers, walk around in a towel. I think they raided his house once, and he was in the shower in a bathing suit with an umbrella. like just do crazy stuff so that he wouldn't he could evade arrest. I can't be the head of the mob. I think it's the Genovese mob family. I'm crazy. I can't be the head. So I mean, it didn't work, but
Right. So yeah. I just think, that we have to stop tearing down each other, period. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like there's really a push on that. And, it's really disheartening to see it over and over again,
especially when you can get ratings regardless. Just the fact that she was interviewing Lisa Leslie to talk about Kobe was enough for her to have. It's like the hot topic thing,
Right.
Over the last couple of weeks. I'm sure Vanessa Bryant and her family wishes, it wasn't, but
Right.
I mean, you gotta imagine, like, just even that, like, imagine Vanessa Bryant, your husband and your child's gone. Now you gotta see some woman on TV asking about some rape
His legacy,
allegation
right.
from
that she's
damn near-
already dealt with and been brokenhearted over,
right.
from
and
9
moved
to
on,
9. Right.
And now you're bringing it back. So, yeah, just wildly inappropriate.
Yeah. Absolutely.
In any circles.
Absolutely.
So,
Disrespectful even, But one thing me and the Vanilla Gorilla have been talking about before we did this podcast here was passions. And I wanted to get into that a little bit. For those who don't know, my biggest passion is probably music and movies. Vanilla Gorilla was telling me recently his passion is
I have two. Cooking and sharks. When I was interviewed at Amazon, I think they asked me a question: what would you be doing if you didn't get this, or what's your dream job? I think it was, and my answer is the same. It's always going to be the same. It's I don't know how many of you guys have ever watched Sharkmen, but it would be working on that Osearch Sharkmen boat. And we're doing a new thing here on the podcast where we're separating things in segments. So our next segment, when we come back, will be passions, sharks and cooking, music, and what was it?
Movies and music.
So we want you guys to like, subscribe on YouTube, hit the bell notification. That way you're notified when updates come, and we will be back. What's up, everybody? Gorilla Gang 3421 podcast back.
Yes, sir.
Got the one man gang sitting here. Kennedy off in the background, but again, like we said in the last part, we're breaking them up into sections so that they're not overly long, doing different subject matter. So make sure you go to the YouTube channel and like and subscribe. No excuse not to. It's free. All it does is cost you like 3 clicks of your right finger, and you're there. You help us out by doing that. I am actually off this week from Amazon on a staycation, so I will be doing some work for the podcast, like some behind the scenes, try to get us on. There's a platform, Buzzsprout, I believe, that'll upload our podcast onto iTunes, Spotify, and a couple of other platforms. So hopefully, in addition to the YouTube channel where you can actually physically see us, we'll be on an actual, more of a podcast platform. So with that being said, again, we will put the link in the description when we upload the video. The link will be on both of our Facebooks, obviously, when we upload these videos. So just click the link, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. That way you're notified when new episodes drop. Yeah, and that's about it. So we're going to talk about passions today. One Man Gang has a couple that he's going to talk about. Music and movies, the M&Ms. Mine is sharks and cooking. So, One Man Gang, take it away.
I mean, with me, it started, really with my mother. My father was never overindulgent in anything that I can really remember, But except pool, yes. And my mom was a big music person. Like, she had a bunch of records, man. And there was a bunch of diversity in the records too. That's why I've never musically been allowed to be put in a box. Sometimes people look at you and assume, hey, you should be listening to hip hop and R&B, which hip hop is my favorite music. However,
genre, yeah.
My mom had rock and roll records. Hall and Oates was a big group with me when I was coming up. My mom had a 38 Special record when I was younger. Hold On Loosely, So I've always had a wide range of genres I listen to as far as music's concerned, but hip hop was the biggest one.
Are there any genres that you
don't like? Absolutely. Country music, can't really stand it.
So there's two different. I think there's maybe two different kinds of country. There's the twangy back road country, and then there's the more upbeatish country.
I think for me personally, you can
just either
keep both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't mind country music at all. I actually, my favorite band of all time is Hootie and the Blowfish.
Jason.
Darius Rucker.
Sir Blanco, what's up, bro?
Darius Rucker has, I think, 3-4 country albums.
Didn't he do an R&B album?
He has one R&B album. He did an R&B album. He did a Christmas album. He did like 4 country albums. I believe I actually own all 4 of those. And then Hootie and the Blowfish, obviously. I think at one point I had every single album, all that stuff. Me and my daughter just went saw Hootie and the Blowfish last summer
James,
live.
What's going on, bro?
At Hershey Park.
Lori Dawson, what's going on? Cousin Suki, how you doing?
This dude doing shout outs like it's,
Yeah,
it's a rap show.
They showing me love. I gotta show them love back. You know?
Definitely, yeah. Appreciate everybody support.
Yeah, but as far as hip hop concerned, my sister kind of crafted that a little bit. My sister would record videos back in the day, and we had tapes and tapes of videos, and that really resonated with me. As far as hip hop is concerned, I mean, from the first time I heard it, I was consumed by it. You know what I mean? Like I can't, but I know Run DMC was the first big group that caught on to me. Like Run DMC could do no wrong for me back in the day. To me back then, it didn't seem like there was as many bad records as it is now.
Not
everything coming out pretty much was like, oh, I can dig this, I can dig that, or what have you. One thing I did want to talk about, because it's interesting, every time you talk about a subject, there's always a top 5, top 10 list or what have you.
I would think with you, hip hop would be a hard way to go, trying to name 5 songs that are your favorite.
Well, I got 10 albums that I can say are, my top 10. But the problem with
here's one.
Leo, what's going on, bro?
Here's a question for you then.
Yeah.
You can only bring one album.
Oh, that's easy.
On a deserted island to listen to for the rest of your life.
Hip hop album or one album altogether?
One album altogether.
That's easy too. It wouldn't be a hip hop album, which probably is surprising. It would be Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder. It was a double album he made. I think that is.
I was trying to cheat and get a double album.
That's pretty much the most perfect album I think I've ever heard. Ever. That's just a great piece of work. I Wish was on there.
You Are the Sunshine of My Life. Is that on?
I don't think that's on that one, but I Wish is on there. Which, if you remember the stupid song Will Smith made, "The Wild Wild West,"
yeah,
that's that beat from "I Wish" by Stevie Wonder. He had a lot of hits on there. Isn't She Lovely, I believe, is on there. Black Man, Sir Duke is on there. As, which you've probably heard as and just don't know the title of it.
Yeah, I'm not big on title.
That song was on that movie, The Best Man, if you ever seen The Best Man before. Okay. Just pretty much you can play the album through without fast forwarding anything.
Which you had to fast forward back in the day. Well, on a needle, you would skip it.
I should have said. I'm sorry. See, that's how old I am.
Yeah, most people don't even know what a record player is.
Lori said, Mark, you didn't mention Tommy from the Who. No, that's not one of the greatest albums, but it was a very entertaining musical / movie that they made. But that's funny you brought that up, Lori.
The Who. I have a song from The Who on my gym playlist.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
But see, that's how wide, like, anybody on here can mention something, and it's not much music you can get past me. I mean, there is some, obviously, but it's not much. But I do have a top 10 of my favorite albums. Like I said, Songs in the Key of Life would be the greatest album, period. But as far as hip-hop is concerned, I do have a top 10 list. And just want to share it with y'all real quick. So, the number one album to me, or maybe I'll go... the first album to me is the best rap album of all time. The rest of them are just ordered, no particular number. But the greatest album to me of all time, till this day, and I don't think it'll ever change for me, is It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back by Public Enemy.
Well, you will definitely get Booker's support on that.
Well,
Book chimes in. Book will say, yep.
You got to think about the time surrounding that. Basically...
Like 91, 89, 90?
It was 89, if I'm not mistaken. Or it might have been... Actually, it was 88, because 89 was when Fight the Power came out, which wasn't on that album. That was like a soundtrack. And then it came on their next album, which was Fear of a Black Planet.
Yeah.
However, the reason why It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back is, to me, the greatest album of all time. You got to think about the subject material Chuck D was talking about. Nobody back then was either not brave enough or just didn't think to talk about the things that Chuck were talking about. They got a song called Don't Believe the Hype where they were accused of being anti-Semitic or what have you. And basically them saying don't believe the hype is don't believe what all these writers are writing or saying about us. You know what I mean? Make your own opinion. just a bunch of different things that they talked about on the album, which was kind of taboo at the time. Matter of fact, they used to play Public Enemy's music without the lyrics a lot of times on the radio. Another thing was that the Bomb Squad. A lot of people, I think, undervalue the Bomb Squad as a production team. The Bomb Squad was basically they were kind of like the first RZA to me in a sense, because the RZA had all these samples that sounded weird, or where did he get the sample from? That's what the Bomb Squad was, and they would layer so many samples on top of samples that it just sounded crazy. The Dust Brothers was kind of like that. They did the Beastie Boys second album, which was Paul's Boutique. It was a whole bunch of layered sounds or what have you. Another album that's great, moving on from that album, and these are in no particular order. I would say Raekwon's Only Built for Cuban Links is one of the greatest albums I ever heard hip hop wise. Once again, had a different sound. The RZA at that time was on top of his game, and he could do no wrong at that time. Liquid Swords by the GZA. There's going to be a lot of Wu-Tang stuff in here. Liquid Swords by the GZA, same thing. The GZA is one of my favorite MCs of all time. All right, Supreme Clientele by Ghostface. Enter the 36 Chambers. And yes, James, America's Most Wanted is on here. That album changed my life.
That had America KKK.
Yeah, 3 Ks, yep.
Yeah.
America's Most Wanted changed my life because at the time, I knew Ice Cube was a monster from NWA, but this album, I just didn't expect it to be what it was. And once again, the Bomb Squad actually helped produce that album.
So were you on Ice Cube's side or NWA
I was
side?
Always on Ice Cube's side.
I was opposite.
Were you?
Yeah,
No.
I was always an NWA. Always like to this day, that Niggas for Life is probably if I had to take a hip hop album, that's the one I would take.
I was actually mad at NWA at the time because they dissed Ice Cube. So I was, they made the Benedict Arnold song, and I'm like, nah, you can't diss Cube. In my mind. Because at that time, Cube changed my life. There's albums like, when you talk about Nation of a Million, it changed my life. This was the first time I actually really started listening to lyrics. And I'm like, yo, I like what they're saying. Before it's like, it got a good beat to it, vibe to it. You ain't really care what they was talking about, being young.
Right.
This, I was like, wow, I really hear what they're saying. Then
But
America's
Most Wanted was later on. So.
Yeah, America's Most Wanted was, I think, 2 years later. But even still, I didn't expect Ice Cube to come the way he did. I expected it to be more of an NWA album where it was somewhere between NWA and Public Enemy. I hate to say that. It had a little consciousness to it. The next album I have on here is J. Rue the Damager's Wrath of the Math.
I remember the one song. I never listened to the album, but I do remember that. What's the most popular?
The one, he had a song called "You're Playing Yourself" off of that album.
You're playing yourself.
Yeah, DJ Premier is absolutely my favorite producer, bar none, out of anybody. Period. Dr. Dre's a great producer. He has nothing on DJ Premier, in my opinion. The RZA is a great producer. Has nothing on DJ Premier. DJ Premier consistently, in my mind, has been the best producer. So him and J. Rue, this was J. Rue's second album, and the first album was good. The second album just it did something to me.
And not to be confused with Ja Rule. J. Rue is a completely different thing. If you've only heard of Ja Rule, this is not the same thing. This is J. Rue the Damager is way different.
And if you get Ja Rule and J. Rue the Damager mixed up, you know.
It's probably somebody that Fast and Furious, Ja Rule's, and that so they've heard of him.
Yeah,
it's not too many people outside of outside of regular circles have heard of J. Rue the Damager. Like I said, I used to listen to it all the time, and I've only heard the one song. So
so J. Rue the Damager, Wrath of the Math. Premier, I believe, did the whole album, which was a treat for me in itself. The next album I have on here is The Roots, the album called Things Fall Apart. Now, The Roots had been out for a while when this album came out. I think this was the first album they went platinum on, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, they won a Grammy for the song You Got Me, featuring Erykah Badu. The Roots had an album before this that was phenomenal too, called Illaduff Half Life. This was, I think, technically their fourth album, but most people knew it as a third because their first album, Organix, a lot of people didn't catch on to it. Matter of fact, I found out about their first album later on too. Things Fall Apart. Just, Black Thought lyrically is really underrated, even though a lot of people do consider him maybe one of the best MCs out there. Very underrated, very lyrical. He proved it in the song, no pun intended. The song was called Super Lyrical, featuring him and Big Pun. Mm-hmm. And, personally, I think his verse was better than Pun's. A lot of people love Big Pun. He's a great rapper, but I thought Black Thought had the better verse.
The anniversary of his passing was just a couple days ago as well. So.
Yeah. So that was a great album by The Roots. I don't think there's one song on there I didn't like. Once again, I appreciate albums you don't have to skip or fast forward, or put the needle later on, depending on what your format is, or MP3, But, that was a great album. My next album is going to be Gang Starr's Moment of Truth. Gang Starr, once again, probably one of the most consistent groups out there, along with EPMD. EPMD was one of my favorite groups, too.
Gang Starr on my gym playlist, too.
Yeah. Moment of Truth, though, happened to just, in my opinion...
Is that Mass Appeal? Mass Appeal on that one?
No, that was the one before. That was Hard to Earn. The popular song, well, My Steez was the single off of there. Royalty, the song they did with Casey and JoJo. Once again, I really didn't have to skip anything. But what really impressed me about this album, they had a song called Above the Clouds. And on the song, it featured Inspector Deck. On the song, it sounded like a RZA beat to me. And this was Premier did the whole album, but it sounded like a RZA beat to me. And I was kind of amazed because Premier has kind of a sound where a lot of people don't have to see the credits to be like, hey, DJ Premier did that. Right. And this was kind of a beat that was on a different format or what have you. And, I love that song. It's my favorite song off the album. And number 10, and once again, this wasn't in any particular order. Number 10, Harv, what's going on, bro? Hey, D Harv, amazing rapper out of Delaware. Amazing. I met this guy. We did a show together. I went on first. I think he came to the show after I performed. And I had been hearing this song of his called East Coastin'. Mm-hmm. Okay. I saw him and I knew it was him. I said, yo, you Dave Harv, right? He was like, yeah. I said, listen, man, I heard this song by you. I really love it. He was like, boy, have you heard any other songs? I'm like, nah. And he gave me a CD. I was like, how much you want for this? He was like, nah, you ain't got to give me nothing for it. Went home, took the CD home. Amazing CD. So what's up, Harv? Hopefully you got something new coming out soon, or I might have missed something or what have you. But shout out to him. Number 10, Nas Illmatic. A lot of people recognize this as the greatest rap album ever. It's phenomenal. Once again, like I said, A Nation of Millions to me is the greatest album of all time. But Illmatic, once again, a breath of fresh air at the time it came out. I think this was 91, 92 or something like that.
Somewhere around there,
yeah. Yeah, and matter of fact, my boy James, who's on here, I think I heard it the first time he had the tape, or one of my homeboys had it. And I was just impressed throughout. I mean, just the sound of it. He had a multitude of producers on there. Matter of fact, a lot of people give him credit for being one of the first cats, because what they used to do, you would have like the same person do the whole album or do a couple beats, and then maybe 2 or 3 producers at most. He had DJ Premier on there, Large Professor, Q-Tip, LES, Pete Rock, and everybody. As far as the production sound, everybody did a phenomenal job on it. Nas, if you don't know who Nas is, he's one of the best lyricists out there. And just that combination, man, is a great album. Matter of fact, it was so great that people want him to work with the same producers again and make another Illmatic, which I think he had a line on one of his things. He said, they hoping I make another Illmatic, but it's forward. I'm moving never backwards, dummy. So, Nas has never made, I don't think, another album as good as that, even though he has made other good albums. But Illmatic is definitely the pinnacle of his work, in my opinion.
Well, you can tell it's a passion of yours, because just listening to you go into producers and beats and all that. That's not something that a normal person would know about. I think maybe James said something on your live about you can definitely tell a primo beat or whatever.
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was never huge on music. I grew up with I think I talked about it before. My mom was a musician. She went to Juilliard. She taught violin, viola, cello, all that stuff. So
Yeah, she
had
got
a lot
the
of
blood in the crowd.
yeah. So
Savage.
she had a lot of classical albums, and I remember we weren't allowed to listen to anything like that. I remember my brother, my older brother. I do remember the first song. It was "Cool in the Gang" Celebration, I think. She broke that record.
Oh wow.
She also broke. I'll never forget this. I had the LP, or maybe it was the smaller one, whatever the smaller one was, had "C is for Cookie." I do not know why, because I was not really young. I was maybe 10, 11. And I would just play "C is for Cookie" over and over. And I remember her coming in the bedroom and smashing "C is for Cookie," that record. But yeah, I wasn't allowed to listen to that type of stuff. I had to go to a friend's house to listen to anything that wasn't classical music. My dad was heavy into jazz, still is, but my dad, his Pandora, you get in the car with him, it's all jazz. So I did listen to a lot of jazz. Not really a big fan of it, but you know, I can stomach it. But as far as hip hop albums, I don't really have albums, but when I had Pandora, I have NWA, Tribe Called Quest, EPMD, obviously Public Enemy.
Right.
What else do I have? I have a lot of Hootie and Blowfish on Pandora too, but yeah, the hip hop albums. I'm more of a individual songs type of person than I am the whole album. But yeah, I mean, I listen to it mainly like in the gym, not necessarily for pleasure in the car. If it's a long car ride, I'm either listening to Hootie and the Blowfish, or if you ever have, like driving to Altoona, for example, my favorite place, Altoona, is 4.5 hours. Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin
I
is
love Led
the
Zeppelin.
best
Love Led
driving
Zeppelin.
music ever for me, at least in my opinion. Man, I have Led Zeppelin greatest hits, put that CD in, and best driving music ever. And I will air drum I'll air drum or air guitar while it's just Led Zeppelin is my driving music.
Well, Led Zeppelin is one of my favorite rock groups. So, you ever heard of Rush?
Yes.
Yeah, Rush is one
have
of my
Rush
favorite.
on my,
Actually, Rush is my favorite rock band.
I have
period.
Rush on my gym playlist too.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, you mentioned EPMD, man. EPMD was one of my favorite groups coming up. I mean, I think I can sing every one of their songs without trouble.
I didn't listen. Again, I was like an individual song person. So "I Shot the Sheriff" was repeated. You know, that's
Strictly Business.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so that, but now that it's on my Pandora, it plays different songs, and there's a whole lot of other songs, and I don't know the names of them, but I do have them, liked on Pandora, so they'll frequently pop up.
Yeah.
And
James, I like Kenny Loggins too, bro.
that shit. I told you, Kenny. Top Gun soundtrack, shit, Footloose soundtrack. All that.
He
Hell
did
yeah. He was in "We Are the World."
the Caddyshack song. I'm all right.
I can listen to "We Are the World" and tell you every single person that was in there. I remember my brother had the album, and it had like a shadow of all the artists on the back, and each artist had a number, and it told you who they were down there. And for some reason, I do not know why I memorized it, but I did.
You know who had a album cover something like that was Common, the rapper Common. He had a album called Electric Circus. And on the cover, he had the people on there, but on the back or on the
told you who they
inside
were?
sleeve, it told you who everybody was.
Yeah.
Tribe had an album like that, but it didn't tell you who they were. Midnight Marauders.
Yep.
There's a bunch of people with headphones on, which was an album that James had mentioned on here as we was talking. And Midnight Marauders is a great album, but this was my top 10 list.
My son Carter loves Tribe. He
Yeah.
was wearing a Tribe sweatshirt yesterday at his sister's parties.
Tribe's a great
loves
group.
Tribe.
I mean,
loves
great group.
He loves Fife. Fife is like his favorite
Mm.
rapper.
yeah, Fife was my favorite out of the two. I know a lot of people like Q-Tip. I like Q-Tip too, man. His voice at times would get on my nerves a little bit, man.
It's nasally.
Yeah, you know.
He has a little bit of a nasally thing going on, but yeah, I love Tribe.
Yeah.
Got a lot of Tribe Called Quest, like Excursions, all that type of stuff.
Electric Relaxation is a great song. Bugging Out is one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, Bugging Out.
We Got the Jazz. Check the Rhyme. I mean, to me, the Low End
Scenario was on there.
Yep. The Low End Theory album to me, and this, I might get some hate for this. The Low End Theory album to me was better than Midnight Marauders to me. I know that's going to make a lot of people mad, but it just resonated with me more than Midnight Marauders. Midnight Marauders is a great album, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were all great.
Yeah.
Except for the ones I think later on. I think they
Yeah,
they
had
try
a-
to do one without Fife,
No, they did one with Fife.
but it was kind of near.
It came out after he died. I like it. It's, what is it called? Thank You for Your Service. We Got It From Here, I think is the name of the album. I like the album. A lot of people complained about it. It was a fun album to me, so I liked it. Yeah, they have had some albums. The one, I forget the name of it. I think it was called something about Love Theory or something. The Love Theory. I didn't like that album all that much. It had a couple songs I liked, but, you know, it is what it is, man. You can't just keep, eventually you run out of the magic. You know what I mean? Like it
It's
happens.
rare that everyone is a winner.
Right.
You put out that many albums, you're going
Yeah.
chance. Law of averages, you might have
Yeah.
one that isn't as great as.
But the point
so.
is, you put enough good music out there that your legacy can't be tarnished.
Nah.
You can be like, that one wasn't great, but you'll never talk about Tribe in a negative sense musically. And if you do, you need to get out and you don't listen to hip hop.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Right.
But we were going to talk about your passion too. I think Pops is on there. What's up, Pops?
Yeah, he's waiting. As soon as we're done this, I gotta go do his taxes for him. So
Okay.
I'll be leaving to go.
That's why he's watching. Hurry up, son.
Like, I thought your ass was coming over here to do my. Yes, I will be over there shortly, whenever we're done. So yeah, my passion is sharks.
I like Jaws.
I love sharks. Somewhere around here, I have I forget what it's called. It's a orca something bracelet for shark conservation. One of the most misunderstood animals on the planet. Sharks, converse to what most people think, do not target humans. They just don't. It's just not in their nature. Most great white shark bites are investigatory bites, where you look like something that may be food. You're moving. You're setting off. So whenever you're swimming, it sends out electrical signals to sharks, and they have these things called ampelline of thorazine or some weird name. And they're basically, if you look at a shark really close, there's all these tiny little holes on their face, and it gets electrical impulses. That's how they know a fish is in trouble. A seal, a wounded seal, wounded animal, anything, they get electrical impulses. So they go, and most shark bites, great white sharks, are investigatory bites. Bull sharks and tiger sharks will target humans, just because they eat everything in the ocean. They just eat everything. Those are the sharks that you'll find license plates in their mouth, in their stomach. They'll just eat anything. Bull sharks get their name from the rounded front, and they will hit you really hard, and that's how they get the name bull, because they hit you really hard to stun you. That's how they hunt. And then obviously they feed. Tiger sharks are fairly big. They get pretty big. 15, 16 feet sometimes. And not necessarily, they won't necessarily target you, but if they're hungry, they'll eat you. Whereas a great white shark is not going to eat you if they're hungry. A lot of times they find the great white sharks spit out human when they eat it. They just literally don't like the taste.
Chew you up and spit you out.
Basically. So, yeah, it's always been my passion. I think I started watching Sharkman, and it had another name at one point, but it's basically researchers on this huge ship.
Fab, what's going on, bro?
The O-Search. And what they do on the O-Search is they send out a little boat. Well, they put in lines of... put lines out with pieces, big, huge chunks of tuna on it. They catch a shark. And then what they do is they take the line out with a smaller boat, and they literally hand wrangle a shark. They attach floaters to keep the shark up to the surface. And they get as many on there so that they get them up there. They tire the shark out so that the shark's easier to manage, and they bring them around to a lift. And what they do is, once the shark is on the lift, they lift the shark up out of the water. And it's just like a team. They all go in. There's one guy that puts a towel over the shark's eyes to keep him docile. They lift up his snout and put water, so water is continuously fed through its gills, because obviously a shark will die if water, like sharks don't generally stop. They can't stop moving or they die. There are a couple species of sharks that can do that, but great white sharks, tiger sharks, like basically the ones you see in movies or whatever, they're not the ones.
It's funny you made that point, because I saw a video, a TikTok video nonetheless, where this guy caught a shark and it came on a boat, and that thing just, I mean, it went crazy. It wouldn't, stop moving away. But the people were scared to death after it got on. They ran to the other side of the
so it's kind of easy when you're working with a 17, 18-foot shark, right? It's just huge. So towel, they put water in his mouth to keep it alive, and then they put a tail rope around the back fin, so you're not able to whip, because you get hit with that tail.
Yeah,
it's kind of a wrap.
Yeah, I imagine.
So then what they do, they're not just catching them to catch them. They their dorsal fin is that scary fin that comes out of the water on top. So what they do is they attach a 6-year tag, and what they do with that is it's a tag. They drill 2 holes in the dorsal fin, which doesn't hurt the shark. They put the thing in, they screw it on with bolts, and then they melt it off. And then they have somebody getting DNA from the shark. They have, whether it's a male or a female, the males they actually have 2 penises, and you can tell because at the back of the shark there's 2 things that go out, and they're actually called claspers.
So if I self-identify as a shark, will I have 2 penises?
You would have claspers, baby. You could have claspers. I don't know if you have, but so they try to get they get a sample, whether it's male or female. They get a sample from their sexual organs. What else do they do? They get blood, DNA, the tracker, and then they get it in the water. And what they do, somebody has to take the hook out, obviously. And the hooks are huge, like probably about that big. But yeah, it's all done in a way that protects the shark and makes sure that the shark is safe. And they try to get the shark. They have a time limit. If they hit that time limit, we got to get the shark back in the water. That's what they do. Because the shark is a little bit stunned when it comes out of the water. There's literally a dude going down the lift into the ocean with the shark. So there's literally a dude standing next to this great white shark and kind of like pushes the shark out. And once they see the shark is swimming fine, they cheer like they just won the Super Bowl. It's like the most, like, that's the thing that made me want to do it. Like the passion of just when they see sharks, when they, they're chumming, throwing big chunks of tuna to get the sharks come, because they can smell something like up to 20 miles or something like that.
Right.
But just them cheering to see when they see the sharks, and then again when they catch the shark, it's like a party. And then when they get the shark on the lift, then it becomes business. And then they get the shark back in the water, and it's like a party afterwards. And they always name the sharks. Speaking of Fast and Furious, Paul Walker did a bunch of shows with them where he was actually helping them do it.
Okay.
I think they named a shark after his daughter.
Okay.
I think they named Paul named one of the sharks after his mom. So it's really cool. And then even if you go on osearch.com, you can see where the sharks are going. And a lot of it's for research. They want to know when sharks, when they mate, where they're mating. Okay. They want to see where they're delivering the babies. They want to see where they go when they are. Basically, sharks disappear. So sharks appear at certain times of the year, and then they disappear. So one of the objectives of the research is to find out where these sharks are going when they disappear. So we know they feed down. They feed in the winter because they have sharks in like Guadalupe, Mexico, and
aren't there a lot of sharks in Honduras?
There's a lot of sharks in Africa.
Okay.
Actually, they have a place in Africa called Shark Alley because it's called the Ring of Death. Actually, because the seals when they go out, they have to pass this ring.
Wow.
It's like a ring of death for the seals. But mainly in the wintertime, they're down in warmer waters and they're feeding. And why they're feeding, and female sharks are always bigger than male sharks.
Oh, wow.
Female sharks are way bigger. So female sharks, what they found are they mate down in the warm waters during the winter, and they feed, and they have one big feed, and then they travel up north. So they're going up towards New England, all that stuff in the summertime.
Right.
And then they lay their babies. Same with the.
I don't mean to cut you off. My beautiful wife just logged on. She's watching it live. Hello, Christine.
So yeah, so they go up. Same with sharks on the West Coast. They're down in Mexico. They go up to San Francisco-ish, the Bay Area. They lay where they give birth. They don't lay anything. They give birth to the pup sharks, and then they leave. The pup sharks stay up there, and they get a little bit bigger because obviously they're not going to be able to travel down. So July, August-ish is when sharks start coming back down, and that's when you'll see shark attacks. Like, because they're going back down. They have this long. They're going down south. They obviously need food and fuel to get to Mexico, so they'll stop and they'll feed. And they're hungry, so like all sharks. But Shark Week is. I'm not a big sports fan, but Shark Week is my.
That's it for you.
My Super Bowl week or whatever. So
yeah,
yeah.
Here's a funny story, and I've told you this story, but I haven't told the people out there. I forget how old I was, but one of my good friends, Adam, it was me, his brother-in-law, his wife at the time, his sister. We went to Assateague Beach in Virginia. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now,
that's known for horses too, isn't it?
You know what? I'm not sure, but we probably should have left when we got there because I remember there were a lot of jellyfish, dead jellyfish. And I'm like, do we even want to get in this water? But of course, we went down there. And I remember earlier, this fin had popped out. Mm-hmm. Now, they claimed later on it was a dolphin fin, but I don't know the difference. Because they said it was two of them, and sharks apparently don't swim together.
Not unless they're hunting. It's rare that they'll hunt together. But gotcha. Sharks will fight before they won't travel together.
Well, I don't know anything about it. You know what I mean? So I just saw the fin pop up. So we're sitting in there in the water, and I'm talking to Adam's sister, and all of a sudden she screams, "Cam, I think I might be the fastest recorded man to run in the water and get out of the water as fast as I could." And when I got to the beach, I see Adam's sister coming up, and she's kind of laughing. She was like, "Mark, what if I got bit by the shark?" I said, "There would have been nothing I could do for you. If they got a hold of you, they got a hold of you. All I can do at this point is pray. You in a little bit of trouble, and they never let me live it down till this day."
I mean, there's a
They
lot
still
you can
make fun
do
of
if
it.
you get attacked by a shark. Interestingly enough, there is, and they found shark repellent. So they have shark repellent. Shark repellent is made out. There's a sac inside of the sharks, and how I learned it is, I don't know if you ever saw. It's like Jaws versus killer whale or something like that. So killer whales will target sharks and eat sharks, but they only eat the liver. Like they'll literally, they hunt, killer whales hunt in packs, obviously. So and they're way bigger than even the biggest great white shark.
Right.
So they'll like come at it from all angles and hit it as hard as they can with their nose and stun the shark. And what they'll do is they'll try to flip it over. So if a shark is turned upside down, it's a state called tonic immobility, and the shark is literally like paralyzed essentially. Like if a shark is overturned, they cannot turn themselves back over.
Okay.
So if a shark is upside down, they're just paralyzed, and they'll drown because again they're not able to move, so they'll drown. So what the killer whales do is they'll tip the shark upside down.
I heard dolphins do that too. Like when they attack a shark, apparently they attack them in groups and they'll hit them with the nose.
They don't usually attack them. They'll do. Or dolphins have been known to protect humans. They've been known to protect each other. Like if another dolphin, they're more protective than attacking because obviously dolphins aren't going to eat a shark. So once the shark is in a state of tonic immobility, the killer whales take their liver, and that's it. They literally just eat the liver and keep it moving. They just let the shark die. So they found, it was Jaws versus Orca. I think that was the name of the video. So anyway, what they found is if a shark dies, all the other sharks in that area just disappear.
Oh, okay.
Because there's some type of sac inside of a shark that once the sharks sense that or smell it or whatever it hits them, they just all disappear. So that's how they started making shark repellent out of whatever that sac on the inside of shark. And I don't know what it was, but that's what shark repellent is made out of.
Okay.
So it's an interesting shark fact. And I, like him, when we talked about this, I had a similar story. I went down to the beach here in Delaware and saw fins, and they weren't anywhere close to us, but still, I was like, hell with this, and it felt like I was running on top of the water. But I just remember being on the beach the next time. But you mentioned jellyfish, and I wanted to ask you this: have you ever been stung by a jellyfish?
I have not, and I hope it never happens because I heard it's a terrible, terrible pain.
I have been stung by a jellyfish quite a few times.
Is the
it
story
hurts.
true though?
It stings.
Ammonia? Is that?
I didn't try to. I just know it stings.
Okay.
But the most dangerous thing in the ocean is a box jellyfish.
Yeah. That was if you've ever seen 7 pounds. That
7
was
pounds.
the
That's what
jellyfish
he used.
he had. Yeah.
That is literally the most dangerous thing in the ocean. Not sharks, not electric eels, not anything. Box jellyfish. So yeah, jellyfish are. I don't know. You can go to the like the Baltimore Aquarium and you can touch jellyfish and all that, but I'm like, nah. And you don't touch them if they're upside down, but nah, I'll pass on that.
I
don't like touching. I don't like touching fish. I don't like. I don't want to touch anything. It's not furry. I'm not touching.
I used to drive a bus some years ago, and they took the kids on a field trip to Adventure Aquarium, and when they got in there, they had the stingray, and the lady doing the tour guide or whatever was having the kids come over and touch the stingray.
Yeah,
I just
that's the
that.
same in.
I looked
They
at
have
it. I
that
was
in
like,
the
nah.
Baltimore Aquarium too, and
Yeah.
and I'm not touching
No.
the stingray because shit, that's what killed the crocodile hunter.
Right.
All the things this dude
You-
jumped and messed with, and it was a stingray. The barb went through his heart and killed him.
You meet one person that goes over and touch it, and something happens.
Right,
I'm like,
yeah.
nah,
this
I'm okay.
barb go through my finger or hand or something.
I'm okay.
I'm too particular about my hands. But yeah, that's basically my passion, sharks. I have another one cooking, but it's not really worth talking about.
Well, here's what I'll say. I've ate your food. I've had the pleasure of eating your food, and you actually are a pretty good cook. You know, and for the people who don't know that, he is legit. You know, I've had jerk chicken tacos that he's made, delicious,
about those.
and I had some jambalaya he made, which was delicious.
Super Bowl
And I
jambalaya.
forgot to tell you, I actually ended up eating the one with the shrimp in it too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, yeah, it was very good.
Damn.
Very good. Yeah. Because I was sitting there and I was getting ready to cook something. I was like, I don't feel like cooking. I was like, that jambalaya. So I went down there and I was like, yeah, I'm about to eat this. So I murdered both of them. The one without the shrimp, the one with the shrimp. And, you know, you couldn't really taste that it was shrimp, honestly.
No.
You know? So it was very good.
Yeah, I've always. I won't go too long into cooking, but yeah, I've always loved cooking. When I was a kid, I would watch Justin Wilson, Cajun cooking. There was a show called
I
Walk with.
guarantee.
Yeah, put a little more wine in there. It ain't gonna hurt but a little bit.
Yeah, that was a great cooking
I think just the way he talked was
Yeah.
good enough, and I'll still watch his videos to this day. And then there was a show, Walk with Yan, not to be confused with Yan Can Cook. Walk with Yan was a completely different show. I watched that a lot, and then you know, as I've gotten older, I watched Emerald a lot. I watched Bobby Flay. There used to be a cooking show called Grillin' and Chillin' with Bobby Flay and Jack. I can't remember his name, but Jack, the dude on it, he has a restaurant in Philly. Dog's about to bark, so. Or maybe not. Yes, she didn't knock. I just got a package from Amazon.
All right.
But anyway, so yeah, I forget his whole name, but his name's Jack. He's a real country dude. And when I was married, me and my wife went to his restaurant in Philadelphia and ate there, which was good. Bobby Flay used to have a challenge show where he would challenge people all over. I think there was a guy in New York that he challenged to like a jerk ribeye, and then there's a lady in Philly in what's the place you said you went to?
In Philly? Mm-hmm. I've been to a couple places.
The Penn Station or whatever.
Oh, you talking about Ren Terminal?
Reading Terminal, yeah. So she has made the best macaroni and cheese, according to Oprah. So he challenged her. There was
I
all
didn't get a
different stuff.
chance to eat at the Reading Terminal, did I, darling?
But yeah, so I mean, he just challenged much that. And then lately, everything has just been barbecue. Study a lot about barbecue. So that's what I spend my summers doing is barbecuing. I will be getting a pellet grill this year because I am a lazy barbecue. I do not want to go out and add wood, add charcoal every half hour, every hour, whatever it is. Pellet grills are basically just ovens outside. You set a time, you set the temperature, put your meat on there, and then they even have it so they have a temperature things that you can attach to your iPhone, and it'll tell you what your temperature of your meat is as you're cooking it. So really, you can go by your phone, and so this summer I will be barbecuing the time. But I still cook. I cook on the inside too. So and I like cooking for other people too. That's the one thing about me. I'm not a person that I just cook. I mean, I do end up eating it a lot myself, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoy cooking and taking pictures of my food. Actually, I'm very big on presentation on my plates. So
You know, I'm not going to sit here and say that I like to cook or that I even do it that often, but I sure do like to eat.
yeah, my mom wasn't really a cook, but she warmed things up very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
She wasn't really a cook. We had a lot of TV dinners growing up. Yeah. I remember her making tuna casserole with that damn cream of mushroom.
Yeah.
I remember her making chipped beef, which is horrible.
I love chipped beef. Are you kidding me?
Hated chipped beef.
You know what's funny? My father was more of the cook than my mother was, and my father was a cook in the military as well. And he used to make cream chipped beef and he used to make sausage gravy. I did not know at the time. Now I got two nephews that kind of grew up like my brothers. The summer they would be over my house like the whole summer. Okay, so. They told me years later they never liked cream chipped beef or sausage gravy. Come and find out my brother, you know, who was raised by my dad, didn't like it either. No. You know, I'm like, are you kidding me? I love that stuff. My dad used to call the sausage gravy caveman sauce. And, you know, he used to have little quirky names. He would name the food or whatever.
Chipped beef on
toast.
Yes.
Man, you kidding me.
Hated it.
Cutter, what's going on, bro?
Hated it. Nah, man. Like I said, I remember hating chipped beef. I remember hating vegetables. I was the kid that would gag when you gave me vegetables.
Hold on. I want to hear from y'all. Everybody that's on my live, give me a yes or no. Did you like cream chipped beef, please?
And YouTube too.
Just curious.
Everybody.
Yeah. Cream chipped beef or no. Or sausage gravy, you know.
I mean, sausage, you can't go wrong with sausage gravy. And I love sausage gravy.
A lot of people didn't like that either.
Sausage gravy. Oh, yeah, it's amazing. I am a person that I don't know if anybody else may or may not have done this, but I will put sausage gravy on fried chicken.
I've never done that, but it's not too. I mean, you ever seen the Roscoe's chicken and waffles? They put white gravy on top of that. So, yeah.
I have done that. I have put I put like the nacho yellow cheese, melted yellow cheese.
And the sausage gravy?
No, I put nacho cheese on fried chicken as well at Old Country Buffet. We used to go there after the gym every Friday, and my ass would put it on a drumstick and tear it up.
Well, here's what I learned. As a senior in high school, I had never had a Hawaiian pizza, okay? So somebody ordered it. I'm like, who wants pineapples on pizza? The greatest thing ever created. So what I found out is if you typically like two different things, mixing them, you're probably going to end up liking it anyway. Now, there's some instances where you won't, but...
I will say this. This is one of another controversial KM statements. I don't like pizza. We had pizza yesterday at Celine's party, and I did not touch a piece of pizza.
You don't like pizza at all?
I do not like pizza.
Cam, I'm not doing this podcast with you anymore.
I do not like pizza or ice cream. Two of the biggest. I mean, I just don't eat sweets. Like, that's just.
How do you? Okay, so
I will eat ice cream. So I'll say this: I will eat pizza maybe once a year. I will eat ice cream maybe once a year, and it's always the same: strawberry cheesecake, pizza with light sauce and extra cheese. So it's like this thick. And the pizza thing, as I've gotten older, I feel like I've gotten like kind of lactose intolerant. So it's not that hard to not eat pizza anymore because it just tears my stomach up afterwards. So I don't have any cravings for pizza. I don't care about pizza. I literally threw some of that pizza away from yesterday.
That's first of all, pizza is my wife's favorite food. Secondly, that's my girl. She said yes.
Yes to both.
Yeah. No, she said yes. My mom loved it. Lori, who's my homegirl, said yes to both.
Yes to both.
So, you know.
I will say this. If you ever go to, and funny, my daughter just got a job there. So Little Vinny's out in Newport. It's out in Newport, Little Vinny's. Little Vinny's has a cheesesteak pizza that's amazing. I'll eat that. But it's just, for me, like right now, it's just too much cheese. I can't deal with the cheese.
If we're going to endorse pizza, there's 3 places I would like to mention. There's a Cafe Napoli or Napoli. Okay.
Napoli.
amazing. I think that's the best pizza.
That's
you
on
can get in
40?
Delaware. No, it's on Kirkwood Highway where the Coles is, and there's a GameStop. Used to be a Pathmark. It's Acme now. Sally's Beauty Supply, a Chinese buffet, a craft store is in there too.
Oh yeah, I know where it is.
yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah.
So they're the
Actually,
best.
when I used to work at Best Buy, we used to go there.
In my
for lunch.
opinion, Farmers Market Pizza is really amazing too. I
Yes.
don't know the name of the place.
Right. I've had their pizza too.
there's
It's okay.
Place by my job called Three Countries Pizza. They're called Three Countries because they're supposed to be Italian, Mexican, and American food. Their
Shit,
pizza is
that's
pretty dang
The
good.
farmers market too.
Yeah. Their pizza's pretty good. And there's this one spot I like going to. I'm not going to say their pizza's amazing, but I don't mind it. It's called a Pizza History. And it's literally down the block from Three Countries. Like once you start going into Old Newcastle, it's kind of right there. It's a triangular shaped building that looks like a little hole in the wall. Their pizza's pretty decent to me too. And I like the guys over there. They're real nice when you go in there, the customer service. And
If I go
everything
to a
is real
pizza
well.
place, I'm getting a cheesesteak and wings. That's about it. But
Oh, yeah. Cheesesteak, that's another story. Delisandro's in Philly. Best cheesesteak ever. Period. In
so
my
I say John's roast pork.
Yeah, you keep saying, but I mean, as far as a cheesesteak.
Yeah,
cheesesteak.
it's
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, they have. I mean, their name is John's roast pork. They have that's their.
It's in
their
Delaware?
no, it's in Philly.
Oh, okay.
Yep, it's in Philly. John's roast pork.
Jimmy's is good too.
I will
on
say
South
in
Street.
Delaware, Riviera Pizza on Route 40 makes the best cheesesteak to me. That's just me, but Capriotti's is maybe 2 behind.
I don't get anything from Capriotti except the Bobby. The Bobby is no man. Don't break my heart, man. The Bobby is the greatest sandwich. Capriotti's best.
I've started to get the capastrami because I love pastrami. So I'll get the capastrami sometimes. But I don't generally get a cheesesteak from Capriotti's. It's either now that capastrami or I just get an Italian sandwich.
I forgot a pizza place. In the Concord Mall, there's a pizza place.
Ain't gonna be no Conquer Mall here.
Yeah,
so
well, yeah, but there's a pizza place in the Concord Mall.
I think I know.
Their pizza's really good too.
Yeah.
I forgot, but yeah, you're right. They're about to.
Yeah, Conquer Mall is about to be no more. But yeah, I don't. I'm not a pizza fan. I think there's combinations, and that's what appeals to people. You know, you have to have some sweet and then some sour. To the pizza, and it's a texture thing too. Different people like different textures. I can't eat mushrooms because of the texture. I don't care about the taste. They may be the best tasting thing in the world. I can't eat them just out of texture alone. So
Just for a fact check, Lori said that she believed the one in Farmers Market
is
called
Margaritas.
Margaritas.
It is Margaritas.
Thank you, Lori.
right, my ex.
And CJ, what place are you saying is the best pizza place? I'm sorry.
But I would if I go to farmers market, I'm going to the little Mexican place and getting Mexican and elote, which is corn with mayonnaise, cheese, and
Yeah, if you haven't had a
Spice.
elote, you've been missing out. And you know what?
with everything on it. Parmesan cheese, mayonnaise, and lemon spice or lime spice. I think it is because I have it in the cabinet.
I typically don't do the chili pepper though. I don't
do.
do the chili. Do you? Yeah, I do it without chili pepper. And yeah,
I make elote here in the summertime. I'll make some.
my buddy's ex-fiance made it for me, right? And I liked the stuff so much that they would tease me by sending me memes of this little black kid
Oh.
eating the
So
elote.
CJ said in Newcastle next to the ice cream. There's like 2 Mexican stores. It's right behind. There's a Mexican club right behind it, but then there's a Mexican, like little Mexican place. Then there's a Mexican ice cream shop, and then there's a pizza. And I don't know about now, but they used to have these huge ass slices. But I know what he's talking about. We used to go. We used to go there when I worked at the detention center. But yeah, definitely. I mean, and you can't beat the price of elote too, man.
Man, elote is just, it's
Elote.
absolutely phenomenal. It's probably terrible for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's got mayonnaise, cheese,
Corn.
the corn,
But
and then
it's,
that lemon spice.
it's worth it, man. It's the first non-sweet thing I consider the dessert. It's great.
Have you
It's
ever
great.
eaten in that place though?
No, I've never ate there
You sitting there,
particularly.
it's not bad.
But see, I'm a big Mexican food fan anyway. So
And that's the funny thing about this. You have to go to the little hole in the wall Mexican places to
get the best
the
food.
actual. I can say I have literally been to Mexico City. I spent a week in Mexico City in the ghetto. It was rough, man. It was rough. Like you got guys with machine guns standing on corners. The police roll around in open top in the back, and they all got machine guns. They're like hopping out all the time. It was. Think Wilmington is scary? Man, go to Mexico City. Ain't nothing scarier than that. And you stand out because I'm 6'3", and Mexican people, as a general, aren't very tall. So
Right.
I'm heads above everybody else walking around, and they're like, "This Negro does not belong here," you know. So yeah, Mexico City is scary, but I got to eat a lot of actual Mexican food, which was really, really good. And you literally have to go to a place where the lady that's cooking has on the little apron,
Jeff, what's going on, bro?
all that stuff. So yeah, we'll have to go there one day, or maybe we're gonna do a food episode, couple food. So was a good segue. Once a month, we're gonna do a mukbang, which is just eating on video for whatever. So speaking of, one of those episodes can be that I'll take you to
That'll work.
actual Mexican,
That'll work.
like, I mean, you might have some, but I have some personal experience with Mexicans and all that, and so I have been to quite a few very authentic type places. So yeah. So we're on.
So, CJ, have you ever had Delisandro's? I hear what you're saying, but I'll try Triple D. But if you've never had Delisandro's, you can't even be in the conversation about a cheesesteak.
I think you have to have. I don't think you can even have a definitive until. Have you tried Riviera?
Riviera's cheesesteak?
Riviera Pizza cheesesteak. Yeah.
No.
Have you had Olympics down on Market?
Yes.
So I think you have to try different ones before you say it's the best. That's just my opinion. I don't say anything is the
Fair
best.
enough, but I did a Philly challenge where I was going around, like I tried Jim's, I tried Delisandro's.
Tried.
I never had Geno's or Pat's. No, I couldn't find Tony Luke's. And then I did find a place that said Tony Luke's, but I was skeptical. I was like, is this a chain or is somebody?
No, so Tony Luke's, there's two Tony Luke's. There's one on one side of the street, and then there's the cheesesteaky one where you can't sit and eat, and then literally right across the street there's a Tony Luke's where you can go in. It has 2 floors, and you can eat it. I've been to that one. I know they do have a food challenge there,
Delisandro's.
like the 5-pound cheesesteak. I wouldn't mind doing that challenge, but I mean the cheesesteak is like $50, and unless I got it for free, I wouldn't.
Ain't no challenge. Yeah, somebody was telling me there's a cheesesteak place in Philly where it's like $100 for a cheesesteak.
Probably,
Like,
but they start putting stuff like truffles in it and all that.
you can't
weird,
truffle enough for me
weird
to
stuff
pay
like that.
$100 for a cheesesteak.
Like you can, if you ever want to watch, me and my daughter watch it. Well, my older daughter watch Worth It on YouTube, where they go around and they try a food at 3 drastically different price points. So it's like they would do like a super cheap cheesesteak. They would do like a mid-range price, like a normal price cheesesteak, and then there might be like a $140 cheesesteak, and it's something weird where they put like truffles, they'll shave gold onto it. This weird shit.
Lori, no, I haven't tried tender bones.
I
yet,
have
but-
tried tender bones. That super huge cheesesteak. So tender bones makes a huge cheesesteak. I think it's maybe 3-4 pounds. I personally wasn't a fan. It's they put a lot of peppers in it, so you don't get to taste the meat. It's basically peppers and onions with the texture of meat. It's very pepper oniony.
But you could tell him not to put as much in.
I asked for that, and
They still.
he makes them, he signs them, whatever. It's a signature thing. I wasn't a fan. I did eat mine in 20 minutes. I don't know, Laurie, if you've had one of those, but yeah, I take those type of things as challenges. And it took me 20 minutes from start to finish that entire cheesesteak. And that's why I did it more, to see how fast I can eat it versus the taste. Because, yeah, I was not impressed with the flavor of it. Because, again, it just tasted like peppers and onions and bread. So I wasn't a big fan.
Right.
But,
Well, on that note, we have ran pretty long.
yeah, it's a long segment.
Yeah.
You might have to break this segment up into segments.
Will be broken segments. But once again, we love all of y'all watching on live. We appreciate y'all. Please go to YouTube, click subscribe. That is very important.
Hit the bell notification so you're notified when the videos upload.
Yep. And once again, this is the Gorilla Gang Podcast 3421. I'm the One Man Gang. That's my brother.
Vanilla Gorilla.
And we are out.
Appreciate all y'all, live and YouTube.